Yellow, yellow. Yellow. Oh wow, we're in the zone. I'm just gonna ignore that package. So, let's talk about mixers. I'm hoping that you can see this mixer. Give this a little tilt here. So we'll talk about mixers. So first off, what is a mixer? Oh, this is a mixer. Say hi, this is a mixer. But I think some people have some misconceptions about what this piece of machinery does. This one in particularly is a mixer and interface. We already talked about interfaces in another video. But let's just kind of do a deep dive into, let's say if you're someone that's in a band, or you're a sound engineer. Hopefully you already know what this is if you're a sound engineer, or if you're just getting into this and you need to hook up a microphone into this, or you're, the new person responsible for sound in a venue or a bar or church, and you kind of need to know what this does. I first want to say that it doesn't take like a degree to manipulate this. You don't need to go out and hire some guy to run this, unless it's a large board, like a big board, and then there's a computer inside there. Then you would probably want to pay somebody that knows how to use that program inside of the board. But for the most part, 9 times out of 10, most mixers are user-friendly, and they all have the same features and buttons, more or less, just in different spots and places. So we're going to briefly kind of just go through what this is and how to use it. We're not necessarily going to go into the fact of like the science of this and what this exactly does. I'm just going to go through it if I was explaining it to somebody just getting started, or let's say if like you need to hook up sound right now, today. I'll kind of walk you through it a little bit. So what the mixer does is honestly, it just mixes all of the sounds together. That's its job. It takes every piece of instrument. We're talking vocals, we're talking bass, we're talking drums, we're talking keyboard. All of these sounds are going to be put on their own channel. And these right here, and we'll use like some of this, kind of like give you an example. So these are going to be channels over here, all right? So, and when you look at the mixer, you're going to want to look from top down as you go through. So what we'll do is we'll just go through one channel itself in that aspect. And I'm using paper because why? Why not? We on the fly with it. So we'll just cover everything else up for the first part. All right, so we have, this is a channel. This is one channel. Okay, and then we'll tilt this a little for you over here. So as you're going through your mixer, you're going to want to start from the top, okay? And these channels right here, okay, are all going to pretty much, are like an octopus. They're a leg, they're a canal, they're, a faucet nozzle. They're basically each independent source of audio that comes in, and then it will become one audio signal in the end, which is usually referred to as the master or the main signal. Now on this mixer, you see that there's everything in the black here is going to be an input. It's going to be the sounds that are coming in. And I said sounds with an S, so multiple different sounds. And everything in the gold here is going to pertain to what's going out, that one signal or two, depending on if you need to send it to different places. But this is the final product, the in and the out. So the starting product and the final product. So when you're looking at these mixers and a mixer, you're going to want to think about, first off, how many instruments you need to get into the mixer. Now there are some times where you don't have the ability to mic up the entire drum set, or even mic up the drum set at all. You might have a smaller mixer. These mixers come in different sizes, and what you're paying for is how big the mixer is and how obviously, good of a job it does at mixing, as far as its audio quality, but more importantly, how large it is and how many instruments you can put in here. So when you're looking at the mixer, what you want to do is, after you decide, okay, I have to get, let's say we're going to do the basic 4. Vocals, guitar, bass, keyboard, and then drum set. So 5. All right. So in theory, you would think, okay, I got right here, you can see numbered 1 through 5, 6, 7, 8, right? You can, in theory, put all of them into there. But we'll take this at a channel by channel basis. So before I get ahead of myself. So we have 5 instruments. Okay. And I need to get everybody in here so that way the sound can come out of the speakers and everybody in the band will be heard through the speakers. All right. Or also, more importantly, if you need to hook up monitors, and we'll get into that a little later. All right. But we're just going to start with the first channel, okay? So, for example, this right here, this going down, this one canal right here, all right? This is channel 1. And typically you're going to want to use that for like your microphone. Most mixers have either their preamp or their extra, we'll call that an extra boost to give the microphone a little more and typically on the smaller mixers, the microphone inputs we're going to start obviously on 1, 2. So usually you're going to put your microphones here. So we'll say we'll use the microphone on 1 and 2. So what this is going to do is this right here, the first knob is going to be what's called the gain knob. Now, if you're a guitarist, you probably understand what that is. But in retrospective, for people who don't understand, and not to confuse you, but this is the best visual example, and I'm probably going to try to do this in the real time too, to kind of give you an example. But this gain knob here, this red knob here, right? What gain does? It controls the strength of the instrument, okay? And again, it is more so a strength thing. It's not how loud it is. And it does pertain to loudness, but it's more so how strong it is. So when the gain is down, right, in theory, before I do it, the sound is going to pick up here, right? As I increase the gain, the sound is going to strengthen, and the distance on which the microphone can capture will also strengthen, and it will increase in the area that it captures, all right? So as the gain is down, you're here. As it goes up, it'll get bigger and bigger and bigger. And here, we'll do it real quick. So as we go up, 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 as we go up. So you can kind of see what I'm saying here, all right? Not bad at all. Take a little drink. Make sure you drink water. So that's the best way I can describe gain. If you have a guitar, and I'll show you real quick. This guitar right here, it's an electric guitar, so it has right here what's called, let's see, right here, right? This is called its pickup. The pickup picks up the harmonic frequencies of the strings as they vibrate. Usually there's a gain knob on the amplifier that you plug into or the mixer. This is going to control how much strength, all right, that this pickup and how strong the pickup's signal strength is. So if it's low, it'll be right here. As it gets bigger and bigger and you increase the gain, it's going to get larger and larger, the zone that it picks up in. All right. best way to think about it. It's how strong you're like increasing the strength of the device that is capturing audio. So strength is the biggest thing to keep in mind here. So that's gain. The next knob, and this is particular to my mixer, some other mixers have this, and I'll want to touch up on this just a little, but it's going to be, I have what's called a compressor, okay? A compressor, and less, I'm trying to describe an air compressor, but basically, if the best way I would describe a compressor in audio or in areas where it's going to help, and I'll just give you an example. Best way to describe it. So I was recording vocals for an artist, and this artist was very dynamic in the way that she spoke, in her timbre, in her voice overall, very soft spoken. So there was so much bass and a lot of light whispers, but then there was also a lot of projection when she wanted to hit certain notes. So she would, and things would get a little overloaded, and it was very difficult for me to balance the soft parts and the loud parts. This is where a compressor is going to come into place. I actually have the compressor on my vocals. I'm just going to turn it off to hopefully, if you're listening to headphones, you can kind of tell the difference. But here it goes. I'll say pickles and bananas, 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 pickles and bananas. So I think the best thing you'll notice is it's definitely more pronounced and it's stronger. But what it does is it takes the softer tones and more of the heavier tones and kind of balances them out and pushes them a little harder. And this comes into play when you have so many instruments that are very dynamic, or you want to make one aspect, like let's say if you have everything, in the mixer and the vocals are kind of getting drowned, this could be also a good way to help you get it, pushed through. So it's almost like I don't want to say boost, but for the beginning aspects, yeah, it's a bit of a compressed boost. So hard to find an analogy or a different word for compress. But there's tons of other, ways to look at expression and be explained compression. I'm just giving you like the most basic understanding of what that does. So moving on is going to be these blue guys. And this is the EQ, all right? Let's hear EQ. The EQ, and honestly, some of you actually probably have used an EQ in your life. There's a lot of devices, mainly probably back in the early 2000s, like stereos would have an EQ on them. Some of them do nowadays. But basically, even car stereos, they'll have like a bass and treble knob. And I would, as a teenager, I'd crank the bass knob up in my mom's minivan and just start bumping. But that's the best introduction to an EQ that, usually most people have. They don't even know what it does. It's actually just an EQ. So, and it's the same principle here. So, and this is going to be like another scenario of why would I use that and when would I use the EQ? I would use the EQ. And you're basically, stay. The EQ is used to sculpt the sound signal that is coming in. The audio that is coming in, you're going to use the EQ to make it prettier. It's a good adjective. But also what's more important, you're going to remove aspects of the sound signal that you don't need. What does that mean? Okay. So let's say I have this entire mixer filled with sounds. In order for me to get a nice balance of tones and clarity for everything, everything should probably sit in its own EQ zone or an own spot within the entire EQ, all right? Or the entire, let's say, field, the sound field, okay? So this is going to give you the ability to make room for your sound in the sound field and also put it in a more pronounced dedicated spot in the sound field. So for instance, I want to put my bass, which is a low sound, I want to keep it in the low field. And I also want to remove any other high that's there for no reason. This will help not only make the sound clearer, but also can help with feedback in some scenarios for the microphone. So back to the example of the vocalist. Let's say I have a live vocalist. And again, she's up here, and her voice is very high, she's not touching anything down here in the low tonality. If that was the case, I probably would just take a lot of the low off, and you see the EQ is basically based on highs, right, up at the top, and then goes all the way down to the lows. So what I just did, I just took some lows out. And honestly, even on my vocals, it sounds half bad. I kind of feel like I exist in this range. So that's why I kind of give it a little bit of a higher, mid boost, just to kind of have myself more pronounced. I feel like I have a bassier voice. But for example, as a respect to that is you're removing things. That way you can put the sound signal in one of these zones, because this is a representation of the entire sound field that we're putting everything in. You can kind of remove and enhance aspects of the sound signal. So that's the best way to describe an EQ for people just getting into this, okay? All right, give me 1 second. So before we kind of get into effects, when you're plugging the instruments into the mixer, you can kind of see I'm talking right now, and we have a couple of lights that are coming on. What this is, and then we also have a meter over here. This is also representing how strong my audio signal is coming in. And as I talk a little louder and louder, this will represent, the strength of the signal. Now, real quick, I'm going to keep talking, but I'm going to put the fader down, and you'll still notice that this is hovering, really. So here we go. Talk. So why did that just happen? When I use the mixer to set up for a live event or any type of aspect, what I typically would do is either plug the headphones in, and I would also, probably just plug the headphones in first. And I'd have the fader down, okay? So fader down, and I would increase the gain as the sound is coming in to a level in my ears that I think is suitable. It's not too loud, it's there. So you're first using the gain knob and the headphones with the fader down, to gauge the strength, and you can gauge the strength of the signal here with a visual reference and here with the headphones in. So what I'll typically do is I'll put this on, and then we'll do it again with the microphone. Check. Okay, it seems that everybody's coming. This is good. I like this. This is suitable volume. So typically you'll want to use one aspect of, one of these sounds to be the primary sound, and typically that's vocals in most cases. So that's why I usually start with vocals. If the vocals are at a great volume, that's great. You can also start with drums too. That way you get that low end first, so you can feel how much of the boom you're got in your space, which is great. But also, prioritizing which instrument should be the most heard, and then feedback. We'll get into that. But that's you should be starting off with the fader down, bringing the gain up to the right volume, the right strength, and then going down the EQ, making adjustments, taking things out of the mix and bringing things into the mix, and I'm using that, terminology as well. That's going to be where these tools come into play. Now, guitars, drums. We'll get into that. Let's kind of segue into effects. Effects are fun.